Over the years of training maintenance guys, there's a couple of tools that I've always told guys that you need to have this tool to make you a professional. You can't really call yourself a professional if you don't have this tool. So if you're a maintenance technician and you don't have this tool, I think you're lacking, and there's a piece of a gear that you're missing that's really going to make a difference in when you close a work order, when you talk to a tenant, when you talk to a manager, even if you go to court and have to argue something. And the tool is this thermometer or a thermometer, but in this case, this is a thermometer I have. The other tool that I always suggest or I always tell techs that they need to buy is a multimeter. I have that in the bag right now. We're not going to talk about multimeters in this video. In this video, I want to talk about the importance of having a thermometer. Now, this tool is good for, of course, maintenance techs, handymen, of course, all the guys in HVAC. They already have one. This video is not for you. You guys should already have one, and you have a few different kinds. But this is mostly for maintenance techs. Homeowners, if you're a homeowner, having this tool is going to make a big difference because there's a few things that you can tell just by reading temperatures. Now, why is this tool important, and why do I think it's that important that a tech should have this tool? Now, there's a whole bunch of tools that you're going to have. You're going to have a screwdriver, some channel locks, all kinds of tools, but this tool is going to make you look real professional. And when you talk to a homeowner, when you talk to a tenant, when you talk to a manager, a supervisor, you're gonna be factual when you're talking about a work order or anything you're talking about. Now, there's a few things this applies to. This applies to water heaters. It's going to apply to refrigerators and HVAC. And there's a couple other things, but mainly it's those three work orders. They're very common work orders for a maintenance tech that you're going to have to work on, and having this tool is going to make a big difference. Now, I want to give you guys a couple of stories of things that happened and where this tool made such a big difference. One of them is one day I was called to a work order. This tenant, she was saying that her water heater was not working properly. So I go in there and I turn the hot water on. I let it run for a few minutes. I touch it, and the tenant says, "See, it's not hot enough." And I tell her, "Well, I think it's pretty hot." She says, "No, because last year when I used to put my hand in there in the winter, my skin would get all red." Which is that's not something I can write on a work order. I can't say, "Well, the tenant's skin is not getting red, and we need to buy a new water heater or whatever." Of course, I had already tested the elements and all that. Everything was good. So I go to my bag. I get my thermometer. I read the water coming out of the faucet. Well, I think it was like 110 or something like that. And I put on my work order, and I let the tenant know, that's the water is coming out at 110 degrees. And that's about right. You're so far from the water heater, and that's about right. I told her so. So I wrote on my work order, tenant is claiming no hot water. I tested the water. I ran it for 10 minutes. It's 110 degrees. And I closed my work order. I told her, "Ma'am, according to my readings, there's nothing wrong with your water heater. I'm not gonna turn up the settings. That's not something that we're supposed to do. Most maintenance techs, they already know that." And I told her, "Ma'am, so there's nothing wrong with your water heater. It's reading. It's a good reading." Of course, this argument ended right there because you can't argue with facts. Her opinion was that it wasn't hot enough, but that was just an opinion. Once I took a reading, I didn't give her my opinion. I'm not gonna say it's hot or it's not hot. I just said it's 110 degrees. I don't remember the number exactly. It could have been 120 or something, but whatever the number was, and that was correct for that water heater. And I told her, "Ma'am, it's correct, and that's all there is to it." Of course, she was a little upset because she wanted me to do something. She wanted a new water heater. Sometimes tenants they want something different. In this case, there was nothing wrong with the water heater. The readings were there. When I turned in my work order, if the manager would have asked me, what happened? Of course, the manager probably read it. And when I wrote down my work order, I have a field piece thermometer that I measured water after so many minutes, and this is the readings that I got. Now, if we ever went to court, if there's ever an argument, if somebody wants to give me a write-up, I can always say, "You know what? This is what I read, and this is what I found, and according to code, this is perfectly fine. We can't have a water heater that's 150 degrees or 140, so 100 and whatever it was. I don't remember. It was years ago, but I know it was within the range." So that's one time that this thing made me look real professional. I didn't have to go in an argument. This was an older lady, and she was adamant. She wanted to do me to do things the way she wanted, and I was there to do just my job. That's it. Now, another work order that I went to, it was in the middle of summer here in Arizona, and the tenant put an appointment for 2:30. which is of course like the hottest part of the day. She wanted me to be there at 2:30 because she gets off work at 2, or she gets home at 2, so she wanted me to be there at 2:30. So I went to her apartment at 2:30, and she said, the maintenance guy from this complex was already here. I was the supervisor for different complexes for the company, and I had to go look at this issue. And she said the maintenance tech from here was already here, and he touched the vent, and he said it's not cold. And I said, well, I can't condemn a unit because I don't even know that tech yet. I didn't know him back then. I never met him. I told him, ma'am, what did he use as a instrument to read? He said, no, he put his hand up there and he told me it's not cold. So he said, we're going to need a new AC unit. I told him, ma'am, I can't condemn it just like that. I need to do my readings. Then if my readings say that we need a new unit, then of course we'll work with that. But so the unit was on by the time I got there, and it must have been like 95 inside the apartment, really hot. So that makes you think the unit's not working, right? But I go take my reading out of the vent. It's coming out at 65, 68, somewhere in there, which would make you think, it's low refrigerant, there's an issue or something going on. Of course, they had already tested all that. And then I go to the return vent, and it was somewhere like 90, coming in at 90, coming out at like 68. So we had a better than 20-degree split. So I knew that unit was working properly, and I know, before somebody has to correct me, I know the coils were clean. I took a wind test, and I know it was blowing enough air, so that wasn't the issue. So I asked the tenant, I'm gonna ask a question. I said, did you just get here and turn your AC on? And she said, yes. She said, when I go to work, I turn it off because it uses a lot of power, a lot of electricity. So I told her, ma'am, your AC is not gonna cool in half an hour. She said, well, it was cooling last year. I told her, ma'am, maybe it was cooling last year, but in like November. But right now it's June or July, and it's not cooling. So it's not going to cool your apartment in an hour. It's going to take hours and hours to get from 95 to 75 because you had it off all day, the hottest part of the day. So she was really adamant. She wanted a new unit. Of course, replacing the unit would have not fixed that problem, because if she's going to turn it off during the day, during the hottest part of the day, when she comes home, it's not going to cool the apartment. Even if it's a brand new unit, it's not going to cool the apartment down in an hour or two. It's going to take hours and hours. I told her, ma'am, put it about 80 or 85 or something. Don't let your apartment get so hot. And she said, well, I've had this apartment and I've already done it, and you're not going to tell me. I told her, ma'am, I'm just going to take the readings. I cannot condemn this unit. This unit's fine. Leave your AC on. Don't turn it off. So when I wrote down my work order, wrote down my information, I remember on that work order, I even put down the model number of my thermostat that I used, and all the tools that I used. I even wrote the model numbers, because I had a feeling we might go to court. If we went to court, the work order is very specific. What I read, what I found, the AC unit had been tested. It was fine, but she was just turning it off. And, she wanted her apartment to cool down in a few hours because she figured she was going to save on electricity and then come home and just turn it off. And then like in an hour, it would be cool. Of course, it's not going to work. We know that here in Arizona, it's never going to work like that. Well, it'll work like in October or February, but you're not in the middle of summer. So that's the reason I'm always going to suggest guys have a thermometer. It's going to make you look real professional. You don't have to give your opinion. You can't say, yeah, I don't think it's hot, or no, it's cold. I feel it's cold. No, you just give a reading. You write it down. The tenant can see you. They can read the thermostat if they want to, and that's not going to lie. Other occasions I've been where the thermostat in an apartment is reading, way off. I'll go put my thermometer, and I can tell the thermostat's reading way off. I can tell the apartment's cold, but the thermostat's reading something else. So this even helps me with that. I trust this more than some thermostats. Now, I'm going to talk a little bit about this thermostat in particular. The reason I carry this thermostat and not, because I do have a Klein, that's also a good thermostat. The same thing. The only reason I don't use this Klein, and it's brand new, I haven't hardly ever even used it, it's because it uses the little watch batteries, those little batteries that I don't carry in my bag. So I know that if that battery runs out in the middle of a work order, I'm gonna look like a fool, because I'm not gonna find those batteries. I got to drive to Walmart or somewhere else and buy a battery, and I don't stock those batteries. I don't, it's not something I carry. So that's the reason I don't carry that particular thermometer. But the one I do carry is this field piece, and I'll put a link to it. Of course, it's not a paid review, or they don't know I'm doing it. I'm just sharing a experience that I have with you guys. And right now, in a minute, I'll tell you guys why I have this washer super glued on the bottom of this thing. Some of you guys already probably figured it out, but you'll know in a minute. So this uses a AA battery, which is something that I carry in my bag because, of course, a whole bunch of thermostats use that. So this has been a great tool. I have this one, and I have like 2 more in my van. This one always stays in this bag, and then I have a smaller bag, and then I got a few of these. They're about $40. They're not extremely expensive, but I think there's something that's going to make a tech look real professional. But a homeowner too, because if you have questions about your furnace, your AC unit, your certain stuff that you can take, readings for this. Refrigerators, that's another thing. Sometimes I go to people's work orders and it's a refrigerator. I start talking to them. I put it inside the refrigerator, and then I tell them, ma'am, it's reading 35 in your refrigerator and it's reading 20 up in your freezer. So, I mean, it's okay. But if I do go in there and it's reading 42 or 45 in the refrigerator, then I already know it's not my opinion. It's facts. Then I know what I'm reading. Then I know something's wrong. If it's not freezing and it's 38 in the freezer, then I know something's going on. So it's really helpful to have this tool. It takes a lot of guesswork out. It's really professional. You're going to avoid a whole bunch of arguments, and anybody that reads your work order, they're going to know you know what you're doing. Now, the reason I put that washer or super glue that washer is because I have this telescoping magnet that I use to, anytime I lose a screw under a furnace or an AC unit or kind of washing machine or a dryer, I got to reach for the screws or anything that falls, even a tool. So the reason I have this is I'm pretty short, so I just put it on that magnet. I have to try and reach the vent all the time, so that with this I can reach it, and I can look more professional instead of trying to tippy toe and reach it. So that's why I use this. The tenant can see the numbers too. If the numbers are off, the tenant's going to know. If the numbers are right on the money, the tenant's going to know. They may not know what numbers my targets are, but they'll know what temperatures I read and what I wrote on the work order. So that's the reason I think that this tool is really important. I think this tool is going to make a tech become more professional, and anything you do, anything you say is not going to be your opinion. It's going to be facts. Anyway, I'll see you guys in the next video.